Hello, friends. I'm Wendy Joe, and this is the Grow Podcast. And I'm here with my co host, Ashley. How are you today?
All is well, Wendy. How are you?
Doing well. All is well. I like that.
Mhm.
So, today we're talking about spiritual gifts. And I think it's a really important topic. So, I'm excited to dive in and hear what your thoughts are about it.
Yeah,
Um, as always, I kind of will look around on Google and try to get some definitions, but I didn't really like what came up. But I'll tell you what it said. Um, it said an extraordinary power given by the Holy Spirit. Um, I think I think that's kind of an in the box definition, maybe, and related more to religion. I don't know. What do you think?
yeah. When I hear Holy Spirit, I think of religion, but I guess I don't like the way they phrase it either because it feels like somebody hand like I guess I'm using your pun right, like somebody hands you a box and
Right.
you open this gift up and there's your I,
Right.
yeah, there it is. Hello. So
Yeah, that sounds actually very easy compared to what I think people actually go through to figure out what their gifts are, you know?
yeah, definitely, definitely. I feel like there's a lot of hardship involved with being able to discover your spiritual gift.
Right. And so I believe, these are just my beliefs, but I believe everyone has all the gifts. And
Yes.
people don't like to hear that because then they think, well, I'm not so special. What is she talking about? What do you mean everybody has all the gifts? I think everyone has all the gifts. And I think one or two will come forth and develop if you choose to do that. And I think you may not realize you have any of them if you haven't done some self reflection and growth to
Mhm.
help to bring them forward. That's my
Absolutely.
take, anyway.
I agree with that, but I'm curious in your opinion, what are examples of gifts?
Right. So I think there are lots of them,
Yeah.
from media being a medium, being able to channel other beings or people who have passed, to being very empathic and feeling other people's ailments or emotions, to seeing auras and being able to read them and help somebody to understand themselves better or yourself. Um, so I think they're really varied. There's uh, medical intuition could be a spiritual gift that some people have.
Yeah. And I just asked because I feel like everybody's definition of gift might be different. So I quantify it by our senses, how we receive information, and which one is highlighted. So in our physical body, we all can see, we can all hear, we can all touch, we can all smell. But in some people, you might be deficient in eyesight, but have hyperacute hearing, right? And so I feel like our spiritual gifts fall into those categories similarly, and based on how we receive messages from our spirit.
Right.
And so you describe a lot of your messages. They come up very visual.
Mhm.
They come up very descriptive. It has colors. It has specific shapes. Things like that. Whereas in my case, I receive more energetic feeling.
Mhm.
So, and even when you describe the visual nature of what you're describing, I still feel it. I don't see it.
I see. Right. Right. So I think, is that the gift itself or how your body uses it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't
Um,
know. Is it
yeah,
the chicken
right.
or the egg?
Right. I am a very visual person. Um, I do also hear. I hear my guide. I hear, uh, a voice. Um, but the visual part is stronger. And in fact, through my hands, receiving energy, I I then see something, right? So I'm feeling it, but I will see something in my head. And so everyone is different and will take, maybe they are very sensitive to spirits, right? That's going to be their main gift that comes forth, but how they receive that may depend on their senses, like you described.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's just what I've always thought. I don't know if that's fully accurate or not, but I guess that's just what I feel, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so do you know what your main spiritual gifts are? Do you have a sense of it at
Yeah,
this
it's my
point?
empathy. It's my empathy. And I don't feel like I'm mature in it. So part of us going to the medical intuition course, I realized that there are people way more mature in their gifts than I. Um, but I also realized that my gifts are very apparent to those who haven't discovered anything yet.
Mhm.
So, it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. And when I'm interacting with people, and I think right now I'm in a place where when I'm interacting with people, I recognize when um, my gifts are present. I don't always know how to use them,
Mhm.
but I'm not scared of them anymore. So
Oh,
one of
that's
the things
great.
that, yeah, I used to be really scared, like to the point where I didn't really want to deal with people. I didn't want to be in crowds. I couldn't really speak because I would be so overwhelmed with all the energy that I would receive and I would feel because I could feel all the things around and I couldn't figure out what it was that was causing so much overwhelm.
Mhm.
And so now I know how to, first of all, it's mostly about self preservation and creating containers for opportunities to receive that kind of information. So in large groups, crowds, things like that. But now it's, am I able to? Am I not? And then how do we shut it off and create boundaries around it?
Right. That's really important. Um, when I I went through almost 10 years, it sounds so long, 10 years of really um, trying to piece myself together and work on my character and grow. I suffered a lot of abuse when I was young, and that can really, prevent things from coming forward and prevent the growth. So you have to really deal with it at some point if you want to grow. And so it took really most of that time, and it's not finished. It's still a work in progress. Um,
Mhm.
but what I saw over that time was my spiritual gifts emerging. And part of my healing process was helping other people. It always has been.
Yeah,
And so it's part of the gift, I think.
yeah,
Um, and as I receive information for other people, I learn also about myself. That makes sense.
yeah, yeah. No, I think that's 100% accurate. Like the gift that we're given is supposed to serve a higher purpose in this current reality. And so for some people, the gift is given for people. Sometimes the gift is given to build, to manifest, and so having a clear understanding of what that is, I think is also part of being able to hone in on the gift that's been divinely gifted to you.
You really have to dig deep. I feel for the gifts to fully develop and for you to see what you've really got with you.
Yeah, yeah. I remember, so I'm a nurse by trade, and I remember working on the floor. And, we have a lot of float pool nurses that'll come. And I remember walking up, and I was so like, I feel like I was so naive in my early 20s, of, like just about the world and like how people deal with you and stuff like that. And I remember this one float pool nurse came up, like, was just walking. And I remember stopping and saying to her, I met you before. And she looked at me and she snarled at me and she said, No, you have not. And I said, No, no, no. I mean, I met your personality, but that's not what I meant. I think
Mm-hmm.
I met this spirit before. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. I just knew that the feeling felt good. And I felt like I needed to acknowledge her presence here.
Mm-hmm.
So she never talked to me again.
Yeah, you know, people don't always receive that kind of information the way, you know, we intend. You know, you were really feeling it probably. Your soul was probably buzzing, vibrating because like, oh, I know this one.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. But I didn't even know. I didn't even know what I knew. I just knew I knew it. Like
Mhm.
I just felt that, and I just felt like that's what needed to be said. I didn't know enough to discern whether or not I should keep my mouth shut or not.
Sometimes that is the gift, knowing when, right? We'll be right back.
Everyone has their own unique spiritual gifts, designed for us to create impact and to serve a purpose. An example that has been transformational for me was when I was able to write the book Stigmatized. Essentially, I just wrote down the events that happened and I noticed a pattern. Some people identify their spiritual gifts by just taking note of the things that seem easy. Journaling is another great retrospective way to be able to identify your spiritual gifts. So now I'm wondering, have you discovered your unique spiritual gifts? I feel like it's just a process that you need to refine over time. There are a lot of things that you can do, some of which I already talked about, which include journaling and being able to document your experiences so you can identify the patterns for you.
And we're back. So before the break, you were talking about how you recognized a soul that you felt like you had met before. I don't know if you believe in reincarnation. I think we reincarnate until we learn all our lessons and then we might go on.
Yeah.
um, and so sometimes it's from previous lives. Sometimes you spent time with them in spirit. Like that's a whole totally different thing. So it feels almost like you really know them, like because you were at the same frequency in spirit when you were trying to work out your stuff before you come to your next life.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
possibly.
and that
And
can be really powerful, you know.
scary.
Yeah, I don't feel frightened by it. I know what you mean though when you actually say something to the person, it can be scary and getting a reaction like what are you talking about is
Yeah,
definitely kind of puts the kibosh on talking about it to anybody, you know, because you're like I don't want that reaction.
yeah,
Um, but you never know too. Sometimes people in the moment can't accept it, but they'll think about it. You know, you just never know what kind of impact you have on people.
yeah. And going back to the point about like why are we here? People is also my thing, um, my purpose, the thing that I'm supposed to do. I know that. And so what I didn't realize was how I was supposed to create impact on people. And so now I'm at that point where I'm discovering how.
And that's a can be a long discovery process, you know,
Mm.
but figuring out your path and what your gifts are really takes some of the guesswork out of it. You know, I think many people don't really know what they're here for. You
Yeah,
know, they haven't figured it out, and sometimes it'll take a lifetime to figure it out.
absolutely.
Um, you know, especially nowadays, you see people much older, like starting new careers or doing something innovative, or you know, writing a book in their 80s. You know, and I think it's fantastic, and I think it has to do with the journey and figuring out who you are exactly, which can take your whole life also,
Yeah,
figuring out what you're here for and what gifts are really going to develop and be useful for what you're here for.
yeah.
You know, it sounds like you figured out quite a bit of that.
It seems like it. To be continued.
Right.
Oh,
And you know, you might have figured out parts of it
mhm.
and will go in a direction, and then as you grow further you may change that direction a little bit to really fit it more clearly.
Yeah. So the way that the pattern seems to be working is like yay, I discovered something. Now we have to test the something, and then we have to uncover something new. And then there's a whole new path of stuff to learn.
Right.
So here's the thing, like when it comes to, I guess, evolution, like in our bodies, we can't really predict, you can't predict the future. Like if I went back 10 years from now, and I'm sure you can, say the same thing. If I went back 10 years from now, I would not have envisioned this life for me.
Mhm.
I would have never guessed that I would even look like this or talk like this or even be doing the things that I do. I'm always very much in shock by
Right.
the ways that I've figured out how to live my life, from certain jobs that I've had, from certain opportunities that have been given to me and that have significantly shaped my path. I would have never guessed that those things would be what brought me here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I feel like, so I'm, a little older than you, just a little. And I feel like I've had numerous lifetimes in this
Mm,
one life
yeah.
and gone down different avenues. But as I'm getting older and approaching 60, um, I realize that there are connections
Yeah.
to these different lifetimes. And I think that as I'm getting older, they are going to all come together and be useful in some way that I don't really know yet. you know.
Yeah. 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 No, and I get that too. Like I know that too. Like cognitively, I know that. So this phase of my life is the first time that I'm recognized. Like I think I've finally transitioned out of this almost like this adolescent phase of development, almost where like now I feel mature enough to be able to see the past for what it was and pull and connect some of the dots together for it to make a little bit of sense. It doesn't make complete sense, but there's a picture starting to form,
Mm-hmm.
and so I can imagine when I get to almost 60 that the pieces might look a little bit clearer, but you still have 20, 30, 40 years,
Mm-hmm.
almost another lifetime to
Right.
experience things and to pull more pieces together.
Right.
And
So
so,
true.
yeah. So I don't know if at any point, regardless of what your gifts are or how confident I feel right now, I know that there are multiple lifetimes ahead of me that I'm hoping that using discernment and in leveraging the gifts that I'm aware of today build upon what's to come in the future.
Right. And I do think spiritually that there are different windows of opportunity for growth. And I think it starts at 30. And that's one window that opens, and you feel like you're more curious about these things and are looking for answers.
Mhm.
And then it happens again around 40, and that's a little bit different because theoretically you're a little more mature and emotionally and able to look at things from a different vantage point. And then at 50, I feel like that's the third window.
Mhm.
And there's no right or wrong in spirituality, really. And there's no like, well, oh, I missed it at 30
Yeah.
and 40.
Like, darn.
What am I going to do now? Um, I don't really think beyond that there's a big window. I could be wrong. Now that I'm approaching 60, I used to say 30, 40, 50. I don't think it happens again in that way, but it may happen in a different way. I'm not sure. But I remember clearly the window opening when I was 30 ish, around 30. And that's when I did a great deal of growing. But I still wasn't fully emotionally grown, and I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
Um, and I think all of those things are affect whether you are aware of your spiritual gifts, how you use them. Um, you know, it's all related in some way.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So I've heard this from someone, but every 7 years, your somebody told me that you're reborn.
Hmm.
I don't know where I heard that from, but somebody told me that a while ago.
That kind of makes sense to me. It's interesting because a lot of, you've probably heard this, but a lot of relationships, around the 7 year mark, people end them or, do things that are out of character or whatever. So maybe that's true. And maybe that's why it feels like so many different lifetimes because we're changing so much. I
Mhm.
think some people don't embrace the change.
Yeah.
And when you don't embrace the change, you're staying stagnant and you are stagnant, your gifts are stagnant, all of it, right? So I say, get on for the ride and embrace the change and see how you grow and change and see how your gifts emerge. They may be a little different as you get older and as you mature.
Heck yeah. That's
Yeah.
my answer to that. Heck yeah.
Yes, right? And how you use them may change.
Mhm.
And how you view and understand yourself and how you view and understand others really would change over time because you're changing. You know,
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely.
I think the people that dig their heels in really miss out. You know,
Yeah. I tend to want to, so some people might call me a little crazy, but I tend to want to lean into the things that most people don't. So whether it be change or scary opportunities or things that I've just never done before, I tend to lean in because that kind of quickens the pace of achievement.
uh huh. Yeah, I understand. Um, well, and I think that um, as you lean in, you get more and more of that, where someone else who is digging their heels in and not really leaning into change, their world doesn't change very much,
Yeah,
right?
for
And
sure.
I hear people say, well, if we all have, if we have all the gifts, how come I don't see anything? How come I'm not feeling anything? I don't know what you're talking about. But it all comes down to yourself. You have to look at yourself and how you're experiencing the world and how you're interacting with the world and then you may see something very different if you start to lean in like Ashley.
Yeah. So true.
Yes, and we will be right back.
Have you heard of the Cannabis Nursing School? It's a place where cannabis nursing, entrepreneurship, and spirituality meet. The High Line Tribe is waiting for you, and it's so easy to find. CannabisNursingSchool.com.
Hey there, friends. If you're an intuitive like me, you have thoughts and feelings about your own health and sometimes the health of others. What you're dealing with is medical intuition, but you probably don't know how to harness it. Hey, I met this wonderful woman named Gina, and she's doing a training on medical intuition with her company, The Heal World. Let's face it, there's lots of people getting sicker and sicker, and they often don't find answers with mainstream medicine. We have lots of technology, but we're missing the key: medical intuition. If you'd like to learn more, you could email her at gina@blisslife.com or give her a call at 352-888-2100. The Heal World. And we're back. So at the beginning, we were talking a little bit about, just a tiny bit about religion and the definition I found, which involved use of the words the Holy Spirit. Um, so I just wanted to talk about that a little more because about the religion part of it, because I feel like religion really kind of squashes all of this, particularly Christianity. I'm not Christian, but just from my observations, it seems like it. Like if you have some special gift that emerges, they'll say things like it's of the devil or it's got a negativity attached to it,
Yeah.
which is really weird because Jesus himself was performing miracles and didn't he say like, you can do all this and more or something?
Yeah. Yeah. I do think that religion is very constraining. It doesn't, so when we talk about spiritual gifts, I feel like it's more about expression and individuality. And when we talk about religion, there's a lot of conformity necessary. So we all got to show up on Sunday in our Sunday finest suit or whatever dress or whatever it is you're going to wear. We're all going to clap at the same time. We're going to walk down the aisle at the same time. We're going to hand out money at the same time. And it really doesn't leave a lot of space to express yourself.
Well, I think, so humans are herd animals, right? and I think a lot of people also, in addition to that, that's where they get their community from.
Yeah.
So they gather at the church, that's community, right? And by everyone following, saying the same prayers, doing things at the same time, it really confirms the herd, mentality that we all have within us, to some degree. I think it's at varying degrees depending on who you are. Some people want to stand alone, and there's, not really, don't really get in with that feeling and that vibe. So I think that church can be a really positive thing for some people. I think it can also, really squash individuality and not allow you to step outside that box. Again, I grew up Jewish, which is both a culture and a religion, and I really resonated with the cultural part of it, and a lot of it is in the home, which I love. With the foods and lighting candles at certain times and that kind of thing. But there's still that construct of religion that you're supposed to follow certain things. Mm-hmm. And I will say at times in my life, it's been a comfort to go back to that because I know the drill, and everybody there, knows some Hebrew, and the prayers are the same no matter where you go in the world, and you can relate to that, and it feels like there's my community again. But on the regular, what resonates with me more is finding myself and what I have inside of me to contribute, and that in itself kind of makes me stand separate in a way, but also can create community in a different way. But I think that religions often will, squash these odd, gifts that come out because it doesn't fit what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I think there's space for both. I think there's space for community and, connecting and, finding that home feeling and feeling comfort, right? Like, I think that's necessary in our society.
Right.
But there's this other space that we don't really explore as often, which is how do I build community amongst myself and my family and, the people that I'm here to impact, right? Or that I'm connected with.
Right.
We get that part for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know. And then when people don't want to follow the rules of that religion, they can be, really ostracized. And that's not what to me, that's not what it's supposed to be about. Let's embrace and see what's going on here. Let's be curious and see, maybe we can learn something new, go with what's feeling right and see what grows.
Absolutely. That's a good way to end this session.
I think so. I hope everyone has a great week. Bye.